You are joining Making a Difference with Melissa Clark, a new show that shares the compelling stories and voices of well-known and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Enjoy our guests, call in, or just listen to be inspired. For this show was made with you in mind. Please join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our special guests. And you can listen to our recast at www.melissaclarkshow.com.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us on Making a Difference. I'm Melissa Clark. We are with beautiful Erika Katz. She's a TV personality. She's an actress, a mother, a wife, and she's the author of Coach Parenting, Raising Teenagers with Advice from Pro Football Greatest Coaches. Hello.
Now I'm also a homeschool teacher.
Now you're a homeschool teacher, an educator.
And a cook.
Oh my God.
And all those other things. But
oh my God. How's everything going over there? How's your family?
You know, my family as well. My parents both had the virus. And the reason I'm telling you this is because they both recovered. My mother had very mild symptoms, so she was okay. My dad had a fever. It went up to like 102.5. He was sick for 3 days, but he's fully recovered. Thank God both my parents are fully recovered. They both tested positive. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you get this virus, or if somebody you know or somebody you love gets the virus, you know, we're all panicking. It's very, very scary. So in addition to not feeling well, we're nervous, we're scared. And I've actually had friends of mine call me over the past few days. They think they have it and they're panicked. And remember the statistics. Look, our hospitals are overcrowded, and yes, people are dying, and it's horrible. But there are also people recovering, and it's important to remember that, because hopefully, God willing, if you do get it, you will be the person that will recover. It's just there's so much information out there, and as a parent, it's really scary because, especially, I had a friend who called me the other day, and you know, she's a mother, a wife, you know, and she knows she has it. And she was absolutely terrified. And fortunately, I was able to calm her, and I was talking to her about it, and she is recovering as well. So we have to do everything we can to be safe, to keep our children safe. But if we could try not to panic, the panic is also really bad for us psychologically. Especially if you're alone too, you're caregiving, it's horrible. And so I think in addition to all the cooking and the cleaning and the homeschooling is that we're all getting it too. You know, people are actually getting this virus, and that's so scary for us. And so it's been a very difficult time, and I'm trying to do my best to help and to calm and to be the voice of reason when I can. And that's why my dad is 79 years old, and he recovered from it.
Oh my God, thank God.
But it was very scary. You know, I didn't want to talk to anyone. All I wanted to do was talk to him and make sure he was okay. And fortunately, he didn't have to go to the hospital, and we were very lucky. And we're very lucky to have healthcare workers that are working around the clock for those people that do need to go to the hospital, that do need help, that can't breathe, because that's what we're all scared of, is not being able to breathe. And then when you panic, you feel like you can't breathe anyway. So it's been very tough.
So what did they do? Go to their primary physician?
So my father was sick, and he called me, and he wanted to go to the emergency room. And I said, do you have any pain in your lungs? He said, no. Do you have a cough? He said, no. I said, stay home, because you could get worse in the emergency room. So he stayed home and drank a lot of fluids. And the next day he called his doctor, and his doctor said, you did the right thing, because if you're getting that pain in your lungs and you can't breathe, then you have to go to the hospital. But if you don't have those symptoms, then you really can stay home and treat at home. Look, I'm not a doctor, so you can't do exactly what I'm telling you to do, but it's when it goes to the lungs that's the real problem.
Wow.
So you have to do what you think is right. If you think you need to go to the hospital, you go to the hospital. But in this case, we felt that my dad was better at home because he didn't have any issues with his lungs.
Mm-hmm. And did he get tested for the
Did.
coronavirus?
Both my parents were tested, and they both tested positive. But on the other hand, my mother had a very mild cough, and she's fine.
Wow.
So everybody, there's a gamut. Some people are so sick they can't breathe, and that's what we're all afraid of,
Yes.
is being that person. And then there are plenty of other people who have it and they're recovering. So it's just, we have to be careful not to panic. And as a mother, my daughter was very upset when she heard this. She was so worried, what's going to happen to grandpa? What's going to happen to my friend? And as parents, we're really dealing with that too, our own anxiety and then their anxiety. And we have to validate how they feel. I understand this is a difficult time. I understand it's very strange to be home and you're worried about people getting it. But there are a lot of people that recover, and we have to keep that in mind so that we can keep hope.
That's absolutely right. My God. And you're like the perfect positive energy that we need right now.
Well, I'm trying, I'm trying to be helpful if I can. And, I read something from this epidemiologist, and she said, it's very important because we do know people that are recovering. We've been in isolation for 2 weeks, not to cheat, not to let that friend come over, not to have that play date, because it's very tempting to say, hey, maybe it's not so bad. But every time we do that, we can bring infection into our home. So she said it's really important to stay the course and not to say, oh, I just need a friend over. I need to do this. As hard as it is, you have to keep your home safe. And so even though you want to say, hey, maybe this isn't such a big deal, it is a big deal. And for a lot of people, it's a big deal. We've got to make sure that those people who could really be vulnerable don't get infected.
Right, because we'll be doing this for another month, right? We're quarantined for another month, he said, the president, till the 30th.
What I do is I try to look at what's going on in Europe because they're a week or two ahead of us. And so I sort of figure what's going on in Europe will then eventually be here. And I think we have to be prepared for that. And what's really difficult, look, if you have a home with a backyard, at least you can go outside and feel like you can get some fresh air. But a lot of people are in apartments with kids, and that's really tough. It's really tough. And parents are struggling because also you have to make money to put food on the table. And so my advice to parents, because kids are doing Zoom school and homeschool, look, you cannot worry about whether or not they're going to get into Harvard right now. It's just, it doesn't matter. Right now, you have to get food on the table, and everybody has to be healthy mentally and physically. And if you're sick, you have to take care of yourself and rest. And we can't do everything, and we can't pressure ourselves to do everything. We just have to do our best.
That's right. And you have a structure that's going on in your house right now. So what's your average day at home?
So I am very busy. I am very busy. I don't have a free moment, which is great. So for me personally, I make sure that I exercise every day. I do online videos. I do dance classes. I do yoga classes. And my daughter's doing the same. So I'll start with my schedule. So I make sure I work out in the morning. And then I make breakfast and take a shower. Make sure you try to take a shower every day. It's very important. I know it's easy to be in your sweatpants all day and never take a shower, but it actually makes you feel good. And I have projects I'm working on. There's a lot of cooking to do too, because we're cooking every single meal. So I'm trying to cook ahead so that I'll make extra at dinner so that I don't have to worry about lunch. And sometimes I don't want to cook every night. So maybe I'll make 2 things one night. So then I don't have to make it the next night. I'll make soups, breads. I'm cooking, I'm baking. And then after that, of course, there's a lot of cleaning up to do, changing the sheets, vacuuming, because I like my house clean. I think that's really important. Laundry. But this is a great time to tell your kids, if they don't have chores, you got to pitch in. I can't do everything. Can't do everything.
That's
your
right.
kids can learn to do laundry. Your kids can, look, if they're really little, at least have them put the clothes in the laundry area so that you don't have to go and pick it up out of their room. They can make their beds. Tell them they all have to pitch in. It's a great time for that. If they're a little older, teach them to cook. You don't have to make every meal. If you have teenagers, you can teach them to cook. And my son is actually not with me. He's 19, and we were on FaceTime. I taught him how to make a chicken. He did a great job. Last time he FaceTimed me, he said, "Mom, look at the steak I made." He's doing his laundry, he's taking care of himself. So this is a time we all have to pitch in. It isn't mom's doing everything. It's a good learning experience. Learning is not just what you learn in school. Sometimes learning is practical things you learn at home.
Mm-hmm. Are you, do you recommend ordering out? Are you ordering out at all? You're not chancing that?
I'm not ordering out. I'm not in an area where there's any takeout. So for me, it's all supermarket. So what I do recommend is when you go to the supermarket, don't hoard, but try to buy enough so that you don't have to shop more than necessary, because you don't want to because remember, every time you go to the supermarket, you could be exposing yourself. Right. So I try to get enough food so that I can make dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for at least 3 to 4 nights, so that maybe I only have to go twice a week, as opposed to, I'm one of those people, I like fresh. I like to go all the time. So I'm trying to sort of keep it under control. I have been doing a little bit of online shopping, like getting workout clothes and, comfy clothes. I mean, I think it makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. But I've been FaceTiming. But I did make a pact with myself and with my friends, saying, when this is all over, when we go to lunch, when we go to dinner, we are going to look each other in the eye. We're not going to look at our Instagram or a social media or a text. We're going to really be present, because I think if there's one thing we can learn from this, is that we have not been present. We just haven't. And I'm just as guilty. We're with our kids. We're not paying attention. We're looking at our phone. I think this is really giving us the opportunity to say, hey, we've got to be in the moment. And we have to care about what the other person is saying. And we need to appreciate when we are with our friends and give them our full attention.
That's right. Are you doing this Zoom with your girlfriends? Do you have like any date nights with your friends? Are you too busy?
I haven't really done that. I've been doing FaceTime with my parents and my son and my brother. Yeah. I haven't really done these sort of virtual cocktail parties, because honestly, I have so much to do. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. The cooking, the cleaning. Plus, I'm working with my daughter on her homework. And, I haven't done physical science or simple machines or ratios or, that stuff in a really long time. So I'm having to relearn school. School is hard for high schoolers. So I've been doing that, and plus trying to do my own work, which keeps getting pushed aside.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
Does your daughter have resources that she can go to as far as teachers online?
So my daughter's doing Zoom school, which I actually think is great, because it's from 9:30 to 3. And even if it's not, it's like broken up in 40 minutes, but then they have study halls, and it really structures her day. So that's been great for her, and great for me, because I know from 9:30 to 3, she's busy. And then sometimes she'll do at 3 o'clock. She'll do a singing lesson virtually. And then every night at 6 o'clock, she likes Rumble in New York City, that Rumble boxing class. And so they've been doing these great online classes. So she does that, and it's the same time every day. Or I think now it is. It wasn't at first, but now it is. So she knows at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, she's going to be doing that class. So that's given a lot of structure to her day, walking the dog, things like that. So
has she broken down with you? Has she, got upset? How would you handle something like that?
Yeah. So Saturday night, she got upset. She was worried about my dad. She was worried about my friend. She was also worried about, well, when do I go back to school? Am I going back to school this year? What about in September? And she's a junior. So what about applying to college? Like, when am I going to look at the schools? What's going to happen this summer? Because she was going to do a program. Is that program still happening? So it's hard to say we're going to take it day by day. Like, what does day by day mean? So I said, look, we have to just figure out what's happening now. Yeah. And I'm sure by May we'll know more, and we can't worry about it. Look, we're very fortunate. We have food on the table. We're healthy. We're strong. We have to count our blessings and think of all that we do have. And, the future, it'll work itself out. And I think you can't say, don't be worried. You can't say, don't be nervous. You say, oh, I can understand why you're feeling that way. It's a difficult time. And listen to their feelings and validate their feelings. That's the most important thing you can do. A lot of the schools have counselors that are talking to us parents. And one of the things the counselor said is, you need to validate what they say. I understand why you're feeling this way. Yeah. This must be very hard for you. Don't say, oh, that's ridiculous. Don't worry about that. Their feelings are real. And it's funny, I watched that, that Mr. Rogers movie.
Love it.
I
Love
happened
it.
to watch it the other night on demand, and the whole show was about the fact that kids are allowed to have these feelings.
That's right.
Kids are allowed to be angry and scared and sad and nervous, and they're allowed to feel that way. And I actually got a lot out of that movie, and I realized, okay, I have to remember this with my own kids. They're allowed to have those feelings, so we have to let them and give them a way to express it and a way to deal with it.
That's right. I think as adults as well, we have that our feelings are validated as well. We can't be these big tough people, but we try. But it's still scary, just like you said. People are alone, or people are sick in the house, so they're nervous and scared. But there's a number out there that people could call if they're feeling a little sad. Instead of calling your sister, I call my sister sometimes. She's like, I'm actually in a good mood. I'll talk to you later. I'm like, oh no. So I go to my dog. I'm like, what do I do?
Well, you know what I've been trying to do, because I can't sit still and not help. Like, I'm just not like that. So I'm like, can I give blood? Can I go to the supermarket for somebody who can't? So I'm actually reaching out to my friends' parents who live near where I am. And I'm saying, look, I'm going to the supermarket. What can I get you? There's someone down the street, an elderly couple. I said, look, I'm doing a grocery run tomorrow. Just write down what you need. So even if it's just one person I'm helping, I can't do nothing. And I think that's something that this is the time to teach your kids that. What can we do? Even if it's draw a picture for people in the hospital, whether you know what I mean? Something, we can't sit still. And yes, being at home saves lives. I get that, but we got to do a little more. We got to feel like we're somehow helping. If we're going to the supermarket, we're getting a little extra food and giving it to somebody who needs it, something like that. I think this is the time to teach that at home.
That's absolutely correct. Thank you for that. Thank you for that great advice for people. It's just to remember, people need to be reminded of that. Let's talk about your book.
Okay.
So cute. I love it. You went out and you spoke to pro coaches. What was that about?
So my son, he was 14, and I couldn't get him to clean up his room. But then when he went to basketball practice, his coach would say, pick up the balls and the cones. He's like, I'm on it, coach. And I said to his coach, what are you doing that I'm not doing? Please teach me. And he said, well, you got to hold them accountable. You got to take away something that means something if they don't do it. And I realized, like many parents, we make empty threats. If you don't do this, I'm going to throw out your cell phone. We're not throwing out their cell phone. It's expensive. We need to reach them, right? So they know we're not going to do it. It's an empty threat. So I said, I need some advice. So I started reading football coaching books because they're leadership books. And as I started to read it, I said, I want to start to interview NFL coaches. I want to get their coaching advice, and I want to figure out how I can bring it into the family. I want to be the head coach of my family. And now that we're all in this situation where we have kids at home, I realized how important it is to be the head coach of your family, because you need to make your team a championship team. Not everybody all over the place. They've got to respect you, because if your kids don't respect you and they're screaming and carrying on, this can be a very trying time. So in the book, I give parents a lot of ideas of how to structure. Structure is really important for kids. I interviewed this athlete. His name is Lawrence Tynes, and he won the Super Bowl with the New York Giants. And he said that one of the reasons he loved Tom Coughlin as his coach was because you always knew where to be, when to be. It was always scheduled, and there were no surprises. He said, athletes hate surprises. We like to know what to expect. And, kids hate surprises too. That's why this is so difficult. This is a surprise. They're used to being in school. They may complain about it, but they're used to it. So what is so important is creating structure in your home. And that structure, they can then have independence and freedom within the structure. So that's what the book aims to do, is teach you how to structure your home, how to create a schedule, how to open communication with your teens. It's not, look, I made this book for teenagers, but this goes across the board. If you have structure and you have discipline and you have respect in your home, everything will go smoother.
I love it. When did you write that book?
So the book came out 2 years ago, and I interviewed Super Bowl winning coaches like John Harbaugh, his brother Jim Harbaugh, Jimmy Johnson, Tom Coughlin, the players Howie Long, Troy Aikman, you name it. I interviewed them. And it's very interesting because they had a real perspective. They felt that their training in football gave them things that helped them succeed later in life. And Troy Aikman has 2 teenage daughters. And he said, there's a quote in the book where he says, as an athlete, there's no such thing as perfection. There's no perfect play. There's always something that could be done better. And so you have to recognize that, and you have to coach that we don't expect you to be perfect, but we do expect you to do your best. And so part of the book is about teaching parents how to motivate their kids, which is where with little kids, it's easier to motivate them. But with teenagers, it can be tough. They sleep till 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. They have the schedule of a, nocturnal animal. They're up all night. It's hard. It's hard. And nobody gets through the teenage years without a little bit of pushback. So the book really helps parents figure out how to handle that pushback, open the communication, and figure out what's underlying the pushback they're getting.
How do you handle bad behavior in a teenager? You know how sometimes they can have foul mouths or...
Yeah, well, we have to define bad behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about swearing, because I really don't like swearing. I think that swearing at your parents is something that shouldn't be tolerated.
Right.
So the first thing we have to do is lead by example. If you're swearing at your kids, they're going to swear at you. So you have to cut that out. The second thing is you have to back each other up. If you're a single parent, if you have a partner, whatever it is, if it's grandparents helping you, whoever is helping you in your parenting, you've got to back each other up. You don't swear at your mother. So that the other parent has to say, you can't do that. And when your kid swears, there has to be a swift consequence. But in the book, I say you have to be prepared, meaning you set expectation and you set a consequence. If you swear at me, you won't go out with your friends. That doesn't work right now because nobody can go anywhere. So you got to figure something else out. You got to take away something meaningful. But the consequence has to be real. It has to be swift, and it has to happen. So if you say you can't swear at your mother, if the husband says you can't swear at your mother, I'm sorry, wait. If one partner says you can't swear at the other partner, right, and then you do it, you have to be prepared to punish them for it. And I think what happens now is we say you can't do it, but then we don't follow through on the consequence. And that's why it keeps happening, because if you keep taking away what bothers them, they're going to stop swearing. Trust me, I dealt with this at home. And I had a support team, of my brother, my husband. I said, look, if the kids do this, you need to back me up. You can't say, oh, it's okay with me. And I think a lot of times parents undermine each other, and that's a big problem too.
It's got to be very difficult now if you have children who are swearing around the house. And what are you supposed to do? Take their phone away from them when that's their only source of, looking at their friends? I mean, what do you do in that case? Like, what would you take away from, on a good day, you take away their phone? What would you do?
It's hard to take away your kid's phone too. It's not so easy, because if you're not in this situation and they're out, you need to reach them. So sometimes when you take the phone away, you're hurting yourself as much as you're hurting them. If we're not in this situation, I would say going out with their friends, because that's what they like to do. They like to go out with their friends. You also have to decide what is meaningful to your child. If your child loves video games, taking away video games is always a great thing to take away. Nobody gets hurt when you take a video game away. Kids don't get hurt. You don't get hurt. They might, be obnoxious about it, but you can certainly unplug it from the wall and put it somewhere. So if they're a video game person, take that away. If they're little, it could be, instead of always worried about taking things away, I like to think about what I can give. So, hey, if you do this, then you'll get more time with mom. We'll get special time doing this or that. But in this environment, we're all so close together. It is hard to set those consequences. So that's why if you can do things more positively, where you're not struggling for consequences, it can be helpful. Like if you clean your room, then you get an extra 10 minutes of playtime, or you can stay up an extra 15 minutes if they're little. So try to go positive instead of negative. I think that's the best thing you can do in this situation.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful advice. And you started out as a child actress and a model.
Yes, I did.
You went from white to red.
You know what it is? It's always funny when people ask me about that, because it's, as a child, it seems like another lifetime ago. But yes, I grew up in front of the camera, and I grew up as a child actor, which, for me, when I think back about it, it's like being an ice skater or a gymnast or an athlete. It's something that gave a lot of structure to my life. It gave meaning to my life. It gave me purpose. It made me learn how to be a professional. It made me learn how to show up on time, know my lines. It taught me poise. It taught me a lot of very helpful things. And when I was doing, my mother was always right there. I was never alone. So she was a buffer. So I didn't have any of those negative experiences that I think a lot of people did. I had a lot of great friends from it. And also, I consider myself an artist. I'm a writer and an actress. And so I was always around other artists. And I worked with really great actors who are true artists, and, some directors that are legendary. And I watched them. I'd watch the makeup artists. I'd watch everybody, and I'd observe, and I learned a lot from those people. And I think I had very unique experiences that other people didn't. So I really treasure that time in my life, and I value it. And I had a very positive experience. And my closest friends now are the kids that I went to professional children's school with. They're still actors and artists and dancers. And I feel like they're my loves. They could call me, anyone from PCS could call me in the middle of the night. I'd be there for them, because we just had this bond of being artists as children. And I think it's very special.
That's really amazing. You were in Amityville #2. That's pretty cool.
And the man who played my father was Burt Young, from the Rockies.
Yeah.
And,
I met him. Burt Young, he was in there?
He was on your
I met him. I love him. I just recently met him.
I wonder if he was a method actor, because I played his daughter, and every day he would give me like a $1 for allowance. He always treated me like his daughter. He like never broke out of that. He never treated me like I was just a kid there. He always treated me like his daughter the entire time. And yeah, it was really cool. I was a kid, and I didn't realize the Rocky, how big he was, but it was very cool.
He's really amazing. I saw him at the Sopranos con, and he's looking at me as if he knows me, and I'm like, hi. And he goes, hi, and he hugs me as if I'm like people thought I was like his granddaughter.
He's a sweetheart, very sweet.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Are you doing any acting today? I know that you're in a lot of Hallmark films.
So I'm on Hallmark Home and Family. Sometimes I do guest spots on that show, talking to them about parenting. As far as acting, not really doing that. I have something that I'm working on. I'd like to do acting again, but I've been really busy as an author and doing all this parenting thing. But I would do it if it was the right opportunity and it was interesting. I would consider it. It's been a while, but I do a lot of television now, so that to me, this is who I am. I'm not acting, but acting is something you don't forget. It's like riding a bike.
That's right.
But you have to work at it. And every now and then I take acting classes just to sort of keep with it, because it's something I love to do. I don't have to do it professionally to love it, but I do love it. And acting is like, I highly suggest it once all this is over. Even you could do it online. If you can find a good acting class online, I would suggest it, because acting is very therapeutic, because you get to kind of be your real self and you get to live a truth. And I think sometimes just being creative like that can be helpful. And during this time, if God willing, you're healthy, if you have the time to do it, try to find something creative, a creative outlet that you've always wanted to do, but you couldn't do. And there's so much on YouTube. There's so much online. There's so many wonderfully generous people that want to just teach you. And you can find it if you're really interested.
That's right. I learned under the Meisner technique.
Me too.
I like that. I went to James Franco's, he had classes here in Brooklyn, and I just find him wonderful. He's an artist. He's wonderful. So I had a really good time in those classes, and the Meisner technique is really creative, and it makes you think right away.
Right. You have to do the repeating exercise.
Yes.
White shirt, white shirt, white shirt. Right? Because for those of you who don't know, there's an exercise where you look at the person and you say something and they have to repeat it back, but you have to really, really be listening, and you have to say it exactly the way they're saying it, because the whole point is that you're really listening. And this is a great lesson to all of us. We're all together. We have to listen to one another. We have to listen to our kids, and not just with one ear. We have to be present and listen. And if there's anything we could learn from this really difficult epidemic is that we need to be more connected and not be looking at our phones all the time.
That's right. And you're so wonderful. You're giving out free advice on your Facebook pages and your Instagram. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So I'm at Erika Katz on Facebook. You can follow me, you can friend me, whatever you like. Instagram, Erika Katz, and then _. And I'm trying to, anything I can do. And if there's anyone out there who's having difficulty parenting, please direct message me. If I can help you, I will. I'll send you my book. Whatever I can do to help, I'll give you advice online. Hopefully it works. But I'm happy to help. And I think if we can all try to help each other virtually, we'll be in a better place when this is all over.
Thank you so much for your time. You're so wonderful. And I see my little friend over there behind you.
Oh, is he here? Oh my gosh, he's right on the couch.
So cute. He's so sweet.
And if you can foster a dog, there's all these dogs in shelters and you have the opportunity to foster a dog. I was actually walking him this morning and I saw this woman and she went to the shelter here. She got the cutest, this puppy.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh, I love a puppy. Or older dogs need shelter. So go to a shelter. This is the perfect time to foster a dog. And they bring a lot of happiness during this difficult time.
That's right.
Only.
Yeah, we're going.
You can get like a basket, I think, of kittens, and you can foster them. I mean, what could be better than a basket of kittens? Oh,
I would love that. Yeah, we're gonna do. I write for Pet Lifestyle magazine, so we're gonna do a whole article on this coronavirus and fostering animals. It's really important to, have them right by our side. So I can't stop looking at this
love
little
of
guy.
my life. There he is.
He's so sweet.
Hanging out. Can you see him?
Yeah.
Hanging off the bed like that.
I love him. Thank you so much. You're the best. You're beautiful. God bless you. And I'm so happy that your parents are okay.
Thank you. Thank God. Yes, they're okay. And
Oh.
I wish everybody out there, health and safety and happiness. And if you do get this virus, try not to panic. A lot of people are getting through this. They really are. Some more severe than others. But if you do feel pain or tightness in your chest, or you feel like you can't breathe, go to the emergency room.
Thank you, Erika, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.